dkdynamite, and today I wanted to talk about the huge story implications following the ending of Citadelle des Morts. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, just wanted to remind you that every piece of intel from DLC 1 is available over on the Codex, along with every other piece of intel from the entire Dark Ether storyline. That's going back to Cold War, Vanguard, MW3, and now of course Black Ops 6. We also recently added all the Chaos intel from Black Ops 4, since that story is now real relevant to the ongoing plot of the Dark Ether storyline. But jumping right into things, let's start off with Richtofen and Gabriel Krafft's connection. One of the most significant reveals in Citadelle is that Richtofen was adopted by Krafft around, I want to say 1953, 54-ish, after being found in an orphanage. Krafft, who was mourning the loss of his partner Sasha, who we last heard about over in Vanguard, was drawn to Eddie, who had memory loss but retained his intelligence and his charm. This adoption explains Eddie's knowledge of Krafft's research and his later high-ranking government role, setting the foundation for his work with Requiem. However, there's a mystery about whether Eddie's memory loss was genuine or if he was protecting his knowledge of the Dark Ether, because Krafft literally says, and I quote, "I wonder if he's lying to me." This is a really interesting plot point that I hope does get followed up on in a future DLC map. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into Eddie's memory loss, since Eddie's adoption papers and Krafft's intel do suggest that Eddie had memory loss, yet he still retained the use of the name Richtofen and also had nightmares referencing the Origins ending, where Eddie says, and I quote,
"I didn't even get my turn."
This could imply buried memories of as far back as Origins' ending cutscene from Black Ops 2. Krafft's MK Ultra work may have unintentionally reawakened Eddie's knowledge in trying to solve these nightmares, which could explain his later methods of interrogation and torture during Samantha's capture. I think they really did reference the MK Ultra experiments that Krafft was involved in for a reason, because this may actually connect to the character of Richtofen. Now, Eddie's subconscious connection to his past does raise questions about how much he truly remembered all along, and whether his deception distanced him from others, including Samantha, as he seemingly allowed her to be left alone in the orphanage. Now, while on the topic of Gabriel Krafft, I also wanted to mention his ties to Alastair Rhodes, because not only is Alastair Rhodes directly mentioned by name in new intel, but Rhodes does reappear with his voice actor from Black Ops 4 and everything in some of the intel that is now available on the Codex. Now, his direct appearance and ties to events very close to the time of the Chaos story begin to suggest that theories that we are still in the Chaos story may actually hold some water. So it was said that Krafft met Alastair Rhodes at a World's Fair in Belgium back in 1913, which would have been after the events of the Chaos maps that we played in Black Ops 4. So there still are some gaps that haven't been filled in yet or explained, which could be in some future DLC maps. But we all know at the end of Ancient Evil, we ended off on a bit of a cliffhanger, which presumably would have set up a map possibly set in the Library of Alexandria. We know the library is mentioned specifically by Medusa, but this also could have been a reference to a different library that we would have eventually explored in a Chaos map. And I do believe there probably would have been at least 2 more maps for the Chaos story after Ancient Evil, which maybe would have introduced us to this Gabriel Krafft character, which Vanguard later talked about, which is obviously a part of the World War II story, which takes place several decades after what we saw in the Chaos story. But something really worth mentioning is that the alchemical symbols on the doorway to Delphi from Ancient Evil do spell out the word Poseidon. So is that a reference to Atlantis, which we know Cold War's intel also mentions directly by name? Maybe that was a Chaos map all along as well. And yeah, I do think year 1 of Black Ops 4 originally would have just focused on the Chaos story, so there should have at least been 2 more Chaos maps that either would have wrapped up the story or would have left it on a cliffhanger, which we're now following up on with Black Ops 6. Now, I think it's important that a future round-based map could revisit or at least reference the fates of our Chaos crew, which we never really learned much about after Ancient Evil. But Citadelle des Morts may have actually referenced at least one character from the Chaos crew, and that's the character of Bruno. So in a document found on Citadelle, Richtofen is briefing his syndicate contacts on where to find Krafft so that he could be kidnapped, but he says Krafft has security in the form of a large man with vacant eyes and a leather duster that you wouldn't want to engage with. This is theorized to be the character of Bruno, who also wore a leather duster and we know was revived by the Staff of Ross. Now, as of now, it's being theorized as to whether or not you can actually age or die when being revived by the Staff of Ra, or maybe you could be revived several times by it to explain how Bruno could still be alive during the events of Black Ops 6. We do know from the Chaos story that the High Priest of Chaos survived for centuries, so was he revived multiple times, or does that Staff of Ra just give you immortality? Now, I love the fact that Craig Houston and the writing team are really teasing the reemergence of a lot of elements from the Chaos story, and we know that with DLC 2, the excavation site, we're going to be looking for the Sentinel artifact and may even be taking part in a trial, as we would see in a Black Ops 4 Chaos map. Now, I want to get back to the Digsite in just a second, but let's also address Maya's revenge and Ravenov's potential role in the next DLC experience. So, Maya's revenge arc does end with her killing Syndicate's head Franco, but her long-term future with the crew is now a little uncertain. With the Digsite nearby, she may stay, but she's not yet expressed an interest in revenge on Richtofen, which is obviously what Peck and our crew are after, but Ravenov, who was once planned as a playable operator in Cold War, actually has ties to Requiem and a future of immortality. His disavowal by Russia and potential role in future maps could align him with the crew as they face some new threats, and with at least one large event still in his future, he's likely to continue onward with our crew. Should Maya return home after the Digsite, then he may become the new playable character in our crew going forward. And as far as the immortality I referenced for Ravenov, we know he's still alive and kicking pretty well with the events of MWZ, where he would be fairly old at that point, yet he's still on the field. So something still has to be explained with Ravenov's arc that hopefully DLC 2 will begin to explore. But we know the Digsite DLC 2 is set in France and carries a lot of strong ties to Origins. Now the reasoning is obvious, right? Krafft explains the team holds the key to an artifact, echoing themes from the Chaos story. There's symbols from the Crazy Place scene during the Guardian boss fight which do suggest a connection to the underground areas of Origins. The four bastard sons, whose names are lost to time, could either replace or be linked to the original characters, setting up intriguing possibilities for future lore. Those original characters being Dempsey, Nikolai, Takeo, and Richtofen. The Digsite is also likely a tomb for either the Owl himself or his sons, thereby making it a tomb just like what we saw over in Origins. Now, there's a really good theory going around, like I just mentioned, that the original characters could have been the four bastard sons, which are later reincarnated. Now, Citadelle de Mort introduces intriguing parallels between the Owl's four illegitimate sons and the original characters of the Ether, suggesting that these bastard sons may be alternate incarnations of our beloved Ultimus or Primis crew. Now, each son is associated with a specific animal with distinct traits. The stag, swift and precise, resembles Takeo. The dragon, destructive and fiery, aligns with Dempsey's love for chaos and explosions. We have the lion, loyal and brave, which reflects Nikolai's good soldier-esque qualities. And then we have the raven, dark and intelligent, which shares Richtofen's mastery of the occult and seeming lack of a soul. These thematic connections, supported by lore like the Sun's unique weapons and roles, hint at a deliberate narrative choice to mirror the beloved quartet within a medieval context. Now, this is perhaps a new version of what was once the medieval Primis crew. Now, this theory gains weight considering the established mechanics of multiverse storytelling in the Ether Saga, where versions of the original characters exist in every timeline. Following the events of Tagger Toten, the disappearance of the original crew across the multiverse could explain why the Bastard Sons exist only as echoes in history, relics of a forgotten era. Furthermore, if this universe predates the events of the multiverse collapse, then the Sons' existence could fill a narrative void in the timeline for Crusader-era heroes, thus linking their medieval deeds with the broader Ether story. Whether as thematic successors or literal offshoots of the original heroes, the Bastard Sons embody a fascinating blend of continuity and reinvention in the Dark Ether Saga, and provide a chance for Treyarch to begin the rumored reintroduction of the original characters for Call of Duty 2025. But overall, Citadelle de Mort introduces major developments from Eddie's adoption by Krafft to the Digsite's potential ties to Origins, and hell, even a trial with that Sentinel artifact. The info allows for some deeper diving into the canonicity of the Chaos storyline, as well as the potential of Ravenov being a future playable character. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on Citadelle de Mort and the storyline thus far? Do you guys see a big connection between the Order or the Cult from the Chaos story that may be connecting into DLC 1? And also, what are your thoughts on where Terminus and Liberty Falls left off? Really hope you enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.